All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our session today. My name is Ryan Huckabee. I'm one of the team members here at USA Test Prep. Appreciate you guys finding time in your days to join us today. Got a lot of great information to cover, so I'm going to be very brief with the introduction so we can get to some of the learning. But for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. For those of you who are not currently using USA Test Prep with your students or in your school, I'm going to put a poll up in a little bit. We'd love to get your information, and if you like what you see today, we'd love to have someone get in touch with you. For those of you that are subscribers, welcome. Hope you find something new today that you're able to implement right away in this extraordinary educational landscape that we live in. Joining me today is my counterpart, Linda Porter. She's one of the training managers. You may have worked with her in the past, and she's going to be along to take a look at the chat and answer any other questions. So if you guys have questions during the presentation, please utilize the chat function. And if I don't get to it during the time, I'll be sure to include it in the synopsis afterwards. I'll also be posting a link where you guys can download your certificates for attending today. We know that those of you that are joining on mobile devices won't be able to access any of the files that we put in the chat. So we'll just send a public Google folder, and you guys can download the certificate for anyone that needs to see it. Very brief introduction to me. I am the business development manager here at USA Test Prep. My wife taught second grade for 12 years in the Georgia public school system. I know firsthand exactly what you all go through, how you don't get paid enough for what you do, and just how special your contribution to our society is. Chrissy my wife has been out of school for several years now and still has kids from second grade that have graduated from college to still reach out to her on social media about what an impact she had on their life. So don't think for one second that what you're doing is not an important contribution to society. That's one of the reasons I'm proud to work for this company. The resources are created by teachers for teachers. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Today, we are going to be looking at what I hope is not a new aspect of our platform, but something that we really stress, that our name is USA Test Prep, but you really have the opportunity to use our platform and our resources every single day of the week. Some of you that have logged in recently will notice that inside of our platform, you'll see the name of your state and the word progress. We really want to hammer home the fact that our platform is designed to help your students master state standards. The high stakes testing is only one component of that overall goal. And today, what we're going to do is show you within our platform how you can help create a pacing guide to mirror what your district or state has set for an expectation as far as the standards you need to educate your students on, and to utilize our resources more than just as a unit assessment program, or even just pulling it out in March or April when it's time for your high stakes tests. So we'll go over the assessment builder, how to schedule some of those assessments, the replace with similar functionality, supportive lesson plans, and if we have time, get to some of the data analysis. But again, the idea today is to show you how to use our resources in a practical way that mirrors what the state is expecting you to teach week by week, and hopefully put a little bit more time back in your day and really get your students the extra work and resources they need to help master those state standards. All right. So when you log into USA Test Prep, most of you see a home screen that looks like this. So when we're looking at pacing guides, I'm going to use a Georgia 7th grade math class that we've created as our example for today, but this will work for any grade level and any content area that you're looking to teach. So where we're going to begin building the pacing guide is in our assessments mode. And I recommend that you as educators, academic coaches, district administrators, really press home the idea that our entire item bank is available to you inside of assessments mode, right? So you can look at every single aspect by standard of our content and utilize it as you see fit. So I'm going to give you an idea as to what we can do to start building out a pacing guide for 7th grade math. So in this case, we're clicking on the assessments tab, and we're going to click on create new assessment. But in this case, we're actually not using this content as an assessment. We're going to use it as a warm-up to introduce these topics to your class on Monday morning. So in this case, let's just call this one Math 7 warm-up. Let's choose our 7th grade math. Well, in this case, I went to the high school, so we'll do Algebra 1. Okay. And in this case, we're always going to choose I choose all of the questions. Just a quick distinction. When USA Test Prep chooses the questions, it's a summative encompassing the entire year's worth of standards. For what we're doing, pacing for week to week, you always want to choose all of the questions. So in this case, what you'll do is look at your state or your district's pacing guide, choose the domain, and then all of the standards per your state are listed in their categorical order. So all you have to do is just search for the standard you're looking for, expand it, and then you'll have all of those content questions that pertain to that particular unit. So in this case, let's just start with use units. My suggestion is let's build a 3-question assessment that all we're going to do is put it in projector mode on Monday to get some dialogue started with students around this particular standard. The rest of this hour will utilize this same standard and show you ways to incorporate our resources in supplementation of your curriculum and some individualization of the platform for your students. So in this regard, I recommend that we sort by low difficulty, right? We're just broaching these particular ideas. We don't want to really stump the kids on day one. So in this case, by sorting by low difficulty, you're going to show first the questions that have been answered most correctly inside of the website. So if you'd like to preview the question, you can just click it. It will show you the question as it will be displayed on your screen. And if you like it, you can just simply add it to the assessment and you can move on that way. You can also just simply click the radio button and it will add it to the assessment. In this case, that's it. That's literally all I want to do. I want to add 3 questions that we're going to put in projector mode to introduce this unit to our students and jump off from there. So in this case, I just click continue and skip to preview. At that point, the assessment will be created. I'm going to save it. That's it. That's all I need to do. Now, when my class comes in on Monday morning, I'll log into USA Test Prep, or if we're still doing this virtually, this will be a screen share. And the most recent assessment we created was Math 7 warm-up. And for options, we're going to put this one into projector mode. We're not going to assign this to the students to take. This is literally a way for us to generate some dialogue around this particular standard. So in this case, you have to choose the assessment. And then we're going to display the questions for 120 seconds. There is a timer. If you are giving this as an assessment in class that will count down, you can always pause that if you want to generate that rich discussion around it. Okay, and that's all you have to do. So in this case now, we've got the 3 questions that you curated, and you're going to be able to have dialogue around it, right? You can have the text-to-speech functionality as well as the Spanish translation, should you need that for your class. Okay. And then you can display the answer here as well, so that you can have that dialogue with the class. And that's it. That's all you have to do to take those ideas that you selected from our database and get the dial started with that particular standard. Now, what do we do from there? So my suggestion is to create a pretest based on that particular standard. We'll go back to the assessments mode, and quite honestly, you could do a couple of things. Number one, you could duplicate this particular assessment, the questions that you showed them in class, and reassign it and see if they were actually paying attention. Or we can use this as a template to change and replace with similar questions. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll click the pencil to edit this particular duplicate assessment. And in this case, I still have the 3 questions that I used as a warm-up in my display. I can use replace with similar questions. So what that will do is it will give me 5 options from that same standard to choose from. I still only have 3 questions, which I can go back and add more. But now I'm going to put that same type of standard question in front of my students as something they need to answer that night. So in this case, let's just choose a few options here. And save it. In this case, you can assign it, send it out to the students, and get their results. So in that case, I've introduced the unit, supplementing your curriculum guide, whatever you're teaching in your textbooks, engendered some dialogue around that particular standard, and very easily given them a similar set of questions to answer that evening. Now, one of the other nice things to do with our assessment builder is to program in advance. So another option you have is, if we're going to our second standard, you can assign these well in advance. So in this case, what I can do is I will show you in the assignments tab how I can assign these out well in advance. So in this case, let's go to 7th grade math. I'm going to choose the assessment from my Algebra 1 that I just created. And in this case, let's say we went on to the second standard. You can go ahead and assign that for Monday the 21st. So they won't actually see what you've created if you continue to use this same strategy, 3 to 4 questions in class, duplicate, assign that Monday night. So you can go ahead and create an entire month's worth of a pacing guide, just starting with day 1 in advance. They won't see this in their to-do list until the date that you list as the start date. And then you will have everything preloaded. But what do we do to continue with that particular standard throughout the week? One of the items that we will share with you guys is a sample weekly lesson plan. This was provided to us by some of our ambassadors, folks that have really utilized USA Test Prep to the fullest ability. And I'm going to show you some of these different techniques that will enable you to have USA Test Prep incorporated into your classroom every single day, while reinforcing the same standard that the state said you need to work on this week. So we've already done a breakout session with 3 questions around that using unit standard, and we've created a take-home kind of pre-test based on what you covered day 1. Now, this particular teacher uses projector questions to review those standards that were most commonly missed. So that is assuming from the previous week, we're able to take a look at those assessments you built, put them up, and identify why some students had challenges. What we're going to look at are the flashcards. So inside of the teacher resources, you're going to choose that particular course. So in this case, Algebra 1. And we're going to look at the flashcards item. So you'll be able to generate the flashcards for items, vocabulary, key terms, and if you're using social studies, key events or individuals, and you can pick as many as you want. So in this case, let's grab some of the items that are pertaining to that particular standard, load the flashcards, and then we will print them out for you. All you have to do is, we'll create them for you. All you have to do is print them out, hand those out to the students. They have a little bit of manual labor to do to cut those out and staple them or paste them back to forward. And then they can group up to work on those particular definitions individually or as a group. In this way, you have a ready-made lesson whenever you want to be able to enable some recall and to expose the students to those particular vocabulary terms that are pertinent to the standards that you're teaching that particular day. The choice board. So for those of you that haven't seen the choice board as it pertains to our self-directed content, this is a great way to encourage students and give them a little bit of autonomy around the practice that they're doing as it pertains to the standards that you yourself are teaching that week. So this is the choice board, and it's located inside of our downloadable resources inside of the platform. So you can post this, you can put it in your Google Classroom, Canvas, any sort of collaborative site, and say, guys, during each week, if you add 1 or 2 checks to the board, that will be your satisfactory Wednesday lesson. So in this case, they can complete an item of the day or complete a crossword puzzle vocabulary activity inside of the platform as it pertains to that standard. So for those of you that are maybe not familiar with our student-generated self-directed activities, let me go back and show you where you can direct those students to find those activities. So in the classroom, you can log in as any one of your students by looking at the class management tab. You'll be able to log in as the student. And then that student will then be able to look at practice. Let's go to high school so we can keep the Algebra 1 the way it is. And in this case, the direction is we want you working inside of the use unit standard. That's what we started the week doing. So in this case, there are activities that the students will complete that are standards aligned, videos with comprehension questions, vocabulary terms similar to the paper flashcards that we created, multiple guess questions, performance tasks, and puzzles. As they complete these different modules, their progress bar indicator will fill and their dot rank will change depending on the percent correct that they have. You will see that they have completed this information in your classroom results and hopefully see great results on the assessment you give them at the end of the week. But for example, a student can click vocabulary, choose beginner, and then the system will choose 5 random terms from that particular standard for them to answer. So based on this particular choice board, they can do anything that they want, and you'll be able to see that they've completed that activity. The information is also provided to the students in their progress report. So they'll be able to see not only the assessments and assignments you've created, but also the self-directed work that they have completed, which is great for remediation throughout the year. And a quick reminder for you that they can see this data and a quick, hey guys, pick up one of the pink dots that you have, and that way you'll be able to be ready for that unit test that you guys need some additional reinforcement on. Thursday is video. So the suggestion here is to pull a video up in classroom mode and then start a performance task for those students to apply that knowledge in a little bit of a higher order thinking. That again can be found in the classroom resources. So we'll select the resource that we're looking for. And in this case, we're going to click videos. So now I want to look at the standard that we chose was equations in units. So in this case, here's one, units of measure. So we've got a 3-minute video that we will be able to put up onto the screen, let the students watch it, and then there are comprehension questions that you can answer as a class. Know that if you assigned these particular videos to your students as a practice assignment, or the students take them on their own, these 3 questions are reported as a result for the students' practice work. As a class, it does not compute, but you can gather data by assigning videos. It's also great for any students that miss class for whatever reason to be able to catch up and get that instruction as well. So from there, you can direct the students back into the self-directed component of the site and suggest that, okay, we did the use units video. Guys, I want you to go in now and go to your practice resources for that Algebra 1. And if you would, complete the performance task around units of measurement matching or units of measurement problems, whatever you feel is most relevant to the video that you just saw. So they can begin appropriate units of measure. It's a choose. They'll report it back to you, and then they'll begin that particular session. So these are our performance tasks that require a little bit of a higher order thinking to be able to complete. And again, as they complete this in their own portal, these results will follow back to you, and they'll be able to see this particular activity follow into their own practice to show towards their completion of that particular unit. And then last but not least, they suggest a projector game. I love doing the projector games. It's a great way to put a nice review in front of your students with you having a minimal amount of work to do, and then you can create the assessment to give them later in the day. Once again, we're going to navigate to the classroom resources section. We're going to select that particular content area, and we're going to go down to the bottom for the projector games. So Thinkorswim, if you haven't used it before, this is our Jeopardy game. So we suggest grouping the students. We'll pick the content areas. So in this case, we're just going to use units. That's the section and the standard that correlates with our pacing guide. You can add more if you like. Well, it's asking us to choose between 3 and 5 elements. So in this case, we'll do 3. However, you can just choose use units. It's organized and categorized by those standards. So in this case, team 1 could choose the first. They would get the question. Both teams would answer. You would show the answer, and you would assign points based on who got it correct and move on to the next question. So it's a great way for us to pull those questions out of those standards for you, and for you to encourage some group work with your students prior to that final assessment. When we go back to the assessments mode, one of the things that we can do when we create a new assessment, in particular for this unit, is choose some harder questions. So in this case, we'll call this one, I'll still call it Math 7, even though I'm using Algebra 1, Unit. Now, in this case, I want to choose my harder questions. I want to see if all of the work they've been doing this week is actually sticking with them, if they can apply it. Now, for whatever reason, this particular standard does not have any DOK level 3 content. So we'll choose high difficulty. So as you can see, this particular question has only been answered 13% correct. So that seems like a good one for us to test our students' knowledge. When you see a QU, it means it was used on a previous assessment. So if you're one of the teachers that always says, hey, you might see this practice on an assessment, you can use that. If you prefer to avoid it and have fresh content for your students to see on their actual graded work, you can skip it. If you see SA, it means it can be displayed as a short answer version. So in this case, they will have to type in the question, the answer, as opposed to just the multiple guess. It's not free response, but they will have to type in that particular answer. So we can choose as many of these questions as you like on the assessment in the multiple guess section. I will very briefly go over the other questions that are available to you in the assessment builder. And then we can start looking at some of the questions you guys have put into chat before we look at some of the data analysis. You are able to author questions inside of USA Test Prep. Should you have done that, you can add those here. Those performance tasks that we have assigned during the course of the week as part of our practice, you can create and add those to an assessment. So in this case, we'll look back at the use units. And these are the same 7 that the students had seen on their particular practice work. So with that understanding, if you have already assigned it to the class or they have completed it, you'll see that information here. If I choose a 2-part item, in this case, we will enable one question to give me 2 questions, or one graph or one piece of information, one passage to have 2 questions. So this is a nice way to add a little bit of complexity to your assessment. So let's add one of those. And then we do have free response questions as well. As it pertains to math, these are questions where your students are going to have to show their work. And in this case, they're going to have to choose dimensional unit analysis. You assign the point value for these particular questions if you use them. We give you a key to show you the formulas needed, as well as any keywords that they should apply. As a reminder, the free response questions are not auto-graded. Students are very clever and can defeat these using the proper keywords and terms. So we will highlight those keywords and terms, but it will still be up to you to review their work and grade it accordingly. That's it. Save the assessment, complete it, and you are ready to assign it. Now, one of the things that you can do collaboratively when we're looking at using USA Test Prep as a pacing guide is every single assessment that you create, you can share, and any other of your fellow colleagues that teach that same course will be able to see it inside of their assessment view. So in this case, with the math warm-up, if I want to share this assessment and I save it, now my other 7th grade teachers, when they log in, will see this Math 7 warm-up S. So that exact same 3 questions that I used to warm up the class on Monday to get them ready for this particular unit, they will see it and they'll be able to utilize it as well. Then they can duplicate it and create their own pretest from it or utilize it as they will. So when you're dividing and conquering and trying to create pacing guides within USA Test Prep, especially if you teach in a collaborative effort, it's a great way for, you know, as a 7th grade teacher, I'll take math this month, you take ELA, someone else takes science, and a 4th party takes social studies. And you can have all of this work done week by week in a matter of hours. And once you share it, all of the rest of the team will be able to benefit from it. And then when it comes down to the actual unit assessment, you create that yourself, knowing where your students' strengths and weaknesses are, and keeping students from talking to each other right in between classes so that they don't think they're smarter than you and are sharing answers with their buddies. All right, let's take a look at the chat and see what kind of questions you guys have for us so far. All right, the first question was, does USA Test Prep embed into Canvas? Yes, we do. What we would suggest is that you reach out to our support desk and open up a ticket and let them know that you guys want to work in Canvas. To do so, you'll simply hover over our help section and click Contact Us. And in this case, click Technical Support, enter in the feedback, and click Submit. And that will open up a ticket. Now, this goes for anything that you see on the website. If you're having issues, please open up a support ticket. If you can't even get into the website, go to support@usatestprep.com, and our team will gladly work with you on taking care of that. But we do have an integration to Canvas as well as to Google Classroom. So if your schools or districts utilize either of those platforms, we play nicely with them. So I would encourage you to reach out to us, and then we can connect with your district's data administrators and get that connection linked up for you. All right, next question. Linda said, and I appreciate that, Linda, there is a session on the Canvas integration tomorrow at 4 o'clock, as well as a manual article inside the platform. When you go to manual articles, you'll find a wealth of topics that we have created. All you simply have to do is search for the keyword, and that particular item will pull up for you. Linda, did you have something you wanted to share, some knowledge you wanted to throw out to everybody?
No, you're doing a great job, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, how do you get to the choice board? Sure, so that is another resource on the manual articles page. So in this case, all of the most recent items and developments on the website are at the top, okay? Google Classroom Innovation, Green Dot Challenge, registering for live webinars, hacks, Canvas integration. But in this case, oh, it didn't show up for me. I wonder if we've renamed it. I'll have to see where that is, and as a bonus, I will include that particular choice board and the weekly lesson plan in the folder for you guys. They might have renamed it.
So Ryan, I don't think we've renamed it, but you can get to it under your classroom resources.
Thank you very much, Linda. I appreciate that.
Select your content, and the choice board is the first item in the printable resources.
There we go. So we had enough people asking and we're unable to find it, so we went ahead and made it easy for everybody to find. Thank you very much. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. So we do have an opportunity to do a little bit of data analysis based on the work that your students have completed, as well as the practice assessments that they've given. So let's take a look and see how we can do that with our pacing guide that we've created to individualize some of the additional opportunities for students to master those state standards. So in this case, I can take a look at a progress report for my class. And in this case, we should have some 7th grade math content, even though I've been using Algebra 1. And let's take a look and see what we have. Well, let's take a look and see what the class has completed. Okay. So here's the assessment that they completed on our sample site. And you can see this was an actual diagnostic assessment. They had 27 questions. It was 50% of the actual test length of the Georgia high stakes test. So it covered the entire 7th grade math course. So here you'll see how your students did. And in this case, for the sample assessment that I created, you're only going to see the one standard, right? You would see units of measure and you would just see the one particular standard. I like this particular diagnostic because we have a little bit more to go off of as far as looking at additional remediation, as well as having those students take a look at these particular standards of weakness and do independent practice as well. So in this case, there's a couple things that we can do. As you saw from our class, there were actually 2 practice assessments that were given. And I would encourage you to do multiple assessments during the week, whether they're just practice, not graded, but just to get that data from your students. So in this case, it's Math Quarterly 7 and Math Quarterly Part 2. So what we can do back in the assessments mode is I can search for that Math Quarterly. And in this case, I'm going to compare the Part 2 with the Part 1. It'll show me all of the different assessments I can choose to compare those results to. And now I'm going to see exactly how my students have done since the initial pretest and the next assessment that we gave. It's going to give me all of their scores by domain, and then I can break it down by element as well. So if it's green, they've improved since the last time they took this particular standard. And if it's red, there's been a regression. For whatever reason, that particular standard isn't as strong as it was before. Right? So now I can see my individual students and their work. I can see that Nicole actually has gone down a little bit, but for the most part, everyone else is fairly on level with where they are. Let's see exactly what Nicole had problems with. And now I can see with her individual grades that there are some particular standards she needs additional help with. So when it comes to adding and subtracting rational numbers and degree of visual overlap, I can see that she needs additional remediation. So here's an opportunity for you to either assign additional work for her, or as a 7th grader, just say, hey, Nicole, I'm gonna need you to work on standards that you have pink dots in. We really want to make sure that you've got those particular items buttoned up. So let me show you what a student can do in that case. So all of the work that your students are completing on their own in the platform is being stored in their progress report. So let me go back and log in as Nicole and show you what we can do as a student to practice based on how I'm doing at any given time. Let's go back to the middle school since that's where the 7th grade resource is. And now I'm going to have the dot rank indicators. So this is going to encapsulate everything that I've done. So practice assessments that you have completed and assigned to the students, any work that they've done on their own, and as well as any other work such as videos or performance tasks or vocabulary work. So in this case, it's very easy for me as a student to see that I've got a pink dot in proportional relationship based on the work that I've already done. If I ever have a question as to what I've completed as a student, I can click the progress report. And this will enable me to see everything that I've completed inside of USA Test Prep for that 7th grade math content area. And in this case, it doesn't look like a lot because it was all given on assessments. So let me go back to that particular 7th grade math resource. And in this case, I've got a pink dot on proportional relationship, so I need to start working on that information. I can click on the videos to begin activating that prior knowledge and answering questions, and then move right as the content and the questions get progressively more difficult. You as an educator will know that all of the content that the students are working on by standard is standards aligned. So the students will be getting that extra practice. And all you had to do was continue to use USA Test Prep as a reinforcement in your classroom and to supplement the text. You can also assign this work to students if you'd like it as well to ensure that they do complete it. And I'll show you very quickly how to do that. All right, so we're going to go to the practice mode in assignments, and you can create a new assignment, and essentially all of the activities you just saw in the self-directed mode, you'll be able to direct the students to do. So in this case, we'll do 7th grade math. I'm going to choose, well, still did algebra 1. I have to go back down to middle school. Pardon me, guys. Let's try that again. Okay. We're going to choose practice. So in this case, I can assign questions. I can assign vocabulary. I can assign performance tasks. So in this case, it will give me all of the different items that I am able to use. Now, the one thing that we should do is 2+ activities because it will enable me to customize that work for the students. Okay, so at a glance, I can see what my students have done as far as the assessments or any other assignments that I've created. And I, as an educator, can see that they really need help with these 2 standards. So I can assign questions, vocabulary, and videos. I have 2 different videos which I can preview. I can choose as many of them as I want. So now I've created a homework assignment for the students that is random vocabulary questions, random questions pertaining to this particular standard, as well as a video that will give me 3 different questions for comprehension. If you want to throw a little bit of fun in there, these 3 games do have content enabled in them. So you can give them a little bit of a brain break, but they're still standard aligned. So you know that it's not just a pure Xbox break. There are going to be data captured through doing this particular homework. And now you can give a start and an end date for this particular work. You can reorder these as you want. So if we want them to see the video first and then do the vocabulary, you can do so. Save the assignment. If you want to add this to the school bank, this will allow this entire assignment of practice to be able to be shared by the rest of the 7th grade. So now, again, for collaboration efforts, everyone can benefit from one person creating these type of modules. Just make sure it's reciprocal. We don't want you doing all of the work. We want your colleagues to do some of the work as well. And that way the students will have this work to complete. It will show up in their progress report, as well as their individualized learning section. So they'll be able to continue to work towards those particular standards that they're showing weakness in. And you'll know at that point, by later in the week, if those students are still showing issues with understanding key concepts and mastering standards, then some potential one-on-one may be required. As opposed to your star students, you can give them some of the more higher order thinking questions so that they can do some extension. All right, let's hop back into the chat here and see what questions you guys have.
The chat's all taken care of.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. Okay. Now, one of the things that I want to put out there, Linda was kind enough to check up on one of the schools as far as the resources are concerned. If you don't have access to a resource that you need, you can start a trial inside of the platform whenever you need. Just simply click on that resource and click request free trial. And then every teacher and student will have access to that particular content for the next 14 days. So one of our team members will reach out to you, give you some ideas as to how to utilize that with some of the same techniques that we saw today, as well as assist you with any other needs around the platform. platform. So don't feel like you don't have access to what you need because the district or your school may not have purchased it yet. We want you to be able to explore our content and utilize it as you see fit. Okay. I'm a little bit ahead of pace here, so I would like to actually open up the floor. I did cover everything very quickly, but we will have the link provided to you guys after the meeting, so you'll be able to look back over that. And one of the things I would like to promote is Linda and Haley, our training managers. One of the things that I highly recommend you guys take a look at next time you're in our site is our training link underneath of help. We have a live webinar training schedule, and we encourage you guys to sit in on these types of sessions. So you can click that top link to see exactly what content is being covered. These are free, same format as what you're seeing today, and you'll be able to receive the link for the recording if you're unable to sit, and you can share it with the rest of your team. So we always want you guys to feel as though help is just a couple clicks away. And if you ever have any needs for additional instruction, please let us know. Contact us. We're glad to work with you individually and make sure that you're getting the most out of our resources and that your students are really benefiting from all of the content you have at your fingertips. Okay. I will open the floor if anyone has any questions about what they've seen today. We really wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that if all you're doing in USA Test Prep is opening it up in March for your end of course examinations, there's so much more that we could be doing as a tool for you to help your students throughout the course of the year. There's many more different resources and strategies that we can teach you. All it requires is just poking around the site, taking a look at some of the help resources, and allowing us to help you when you reach out to us. We feel very passionate about the resources and the platform we've developed, and we hope you see the benefits of it as well, not just in the springtime when everyone is breathing down your neck around those end of grade and high stakes tests that apparently are not going to be waived this year by the Department of Education.